Yeah, come and take a look at the snow. Bright white as far as your eyesight goes. Come and take a look at the fields of snow. I'll just get my coat, then we're good to go. Come and take a look at the lake. Let's have a quick skate before it gets late. Come and take a look at the frozen lake. Put your clothes on, mate, don't make that mistake. Happy Christmas.
Greetings, holiday shoppers. There are now just 160 shopping days left until Christmas, and I believe you know what that means. That means it's time for another episode of Christmas Creeps, your one-stop shop for holiday madness all year round. Hi, my name is Joseph Wade. I am your host for this episode and every episode of Christmas Creeps. Joining me tonight is my co-host, Mr. Bradford.
Hey there. How's it going?
I'm doing well, Brad. How you doing?
I'm doing pretty well. Thank you for asking.
How's the summer treating you?
The summer has been treating me pretty well. I've got my hat on backwards. It's time to party. Where's John?
I don't know. He's not with us this week. I think he may be lost in the wilderness. This has happened before, and his face appeared on a milk carton, and it was a terrible tragedy.
I've heard that he's fighting fires up in Ontario. There are a bunch of forest fires up there right now, and Santa's Village is up there. The theme park Santa's Village, not actual Santa Village. So he might have joined like a hotspot crew to help the Christmas Creeps cause. But
in his stead, we have a special guest with us this week from the podcast Breaking Mayberry and my writing compatriot from FrontRowCentral.com. We have Martin R. Schneider with us this week.
Oh God, what is this? Where am I? Everything's in color. Everything's so bright. What is this?
Welcome to the world of holiday podcasting, Marty.
No, this isn't right. Everything is in black and white and dull, and we never ever leave one tiny town in North Carolina. That's what I'm used to.
Well, Marty, things change, and the holidays are all around us. And welcome to, I don't know, man. You've traded in one test of your intellectual will for another. We are torturing you with holiday nonsense this week, Marty.
I feel like Jack Skellington. What's this? What's this? There's color.
Dumb shit everywhere. Marty, tell us real quick about Breaking Mayberry. What's the podcast about?
Yeah, so Breaking Mayberry is a podcast kind of about the Andy Griffith Show. My partner Dan and I take on 2 episodes of the show every week and kind of scream about this weird, bizarre piece of Americana that became so important to our grandfathers and actually wound up pervading people's political ideas. And we try to understand, what is this show? Why was it so popular? What was it about that time period, the 1960s, that made this work out? So it's a show where we recap Andy Griffith's show episodes, but also we talk about kind of weird ideas and politics and stuff that came from that same time period. So, yeah, please check us out. We are on everywhere you can get podcasts, iTunes, Stitcher, now on Spotify, and on YouTube. So, yeah, look for Breaking Mayberry wherever you want. That's the end of my plug.
And I would also like to plug that I was on your show last week to talk about the one and only Andy Griffith Christmas episode.
Yeah, you were. It was a lot of fun, too. It's a good episode.
Yeah, it was great. It's great, yeah. So definitely check that out. We'll put that in the show notes. Also, we have Marty on for a very particular reason, because this week on the show we are discussing the Opus and Bill Christmas special, A Wish for Wings That Work, based on the Opus and Bill Outland Bloom County comic strip by Berkeley Breathid. And Marty is the world's first and foremost expert in all things Berkeley Breathid, because he has a very particular relationship with the film Mars Needs Moms, written by Berkeley Breathid. Marty, tell us about that.
Honestly, I genuinely forgot that was based on a Berkeley Breathid book until you told me yesterday. My fight is not with Breathid, as a matter of fact. My fight is with Robert Zemeckis, and he knows what he did. So, way back in 2011, a animated movie was released called Mars Needs Moms. You didn't see it. Nobody saw it. It was one of the biggest financial failures in history. It cost something like $40 million to make and made something like $4 million opening weekend. And there's a reason for that. It's horrible and ugly and terrible. It's one of those weird... Remember back when Robert Zemeckis was trying to convince us that motion capture and those weird, like, Deadeye Tom Hanks Polar Express bullshit was the wave of the future? So it's one of those. So it came out... It took years to produce. It was shoved out in the middle of March, and it was one of those things where Disney didn't produce it, or it's not a Disney movie, but it's one of those small subsidiaries of Disney, and they shut that studio the hell down, like the day that this was released. They had zero confidence in this. So back in our Something Awful days, when Joe and I were working together, this was one of my first movie critic writing gigs. I saw this movie, and I was astounded by not just how bad and how ugly it was, but also like incredibly misogynistic and quite a little bit homophobic. So the reason why Mars needs moms in this movie is that all of the Martian women are too busy having jobs, like, to raise children. They're being like politicians and soldiers and stuff, right? And
bad luck. Bad luck, Robert Zemeckis.
It's not a good start. Not a good start. And the Martian men, you may be wondering where they are. Well, they are all in a colony together where they paint each other in rainbow colors and dance together and hug each other all day long. I
need to see this movie now.
Genuinely don't. I'm not making any of this up.
Okay. I believe you then. I guess I don't need to see it.
I walked out of that theater jaw on the floor, so that was the first thing I ever wrote. I just got so angry about it. And that was like the first thing I ever wrote that picked up traction. Fast forward a few years later, I'm at the Philadelphia Film Festival, and the special guest of honor is none other than Mr. Robert Zemeckis, doing a special Q&A, and I have my like press badge and everything there. So I'm about the third person that gets asked about it, or that gets to ask a question, and everybody before me was just like, where do you come up with your ideas? What's Michael J. Fox like? He's nice. And so I come up there and I say, like, first off, my name is Marty, so I've seen the Back to the Future movies a million times, and I guess I was kind of like, hey, thank you for doing that. You've had a big influence on me. So let's talk about your biggest fucking failure. And to be fair to Zemeckis, he did not direct it. It was just his studio. And I was like, what the hell happened there? And I don't know what I was expecting. I was, a young critic, and I'm sure I wasn't really expecting a whole lot there, but I don't know if I was expecting him to throw his director under the bus or something and give an explanation. He got real mad. To his credit, he blinked. He was like, well, thanks for liking Back to the Future. He said that it was, like, unfairly maligned. He got mad at critics. He said it was lost in a studio restructuring, which is code for they shut me down. And this is the quote that got me quoted, like, all sorts of places. He said it was the best 3D movie since Avatar.
Okay.
Yeah. And so, like, People Magazine was there, Hollywood Insider was there, and that's the quote that blew up. And so people talked to me. That was in, like, 2012. I do have a aggrieved relationship with this. Zemeckis, if he remembers me at all, thinks I'm a pissant little bitch. And so that's my thing. But all of this stems from a book by Burke Breathid, which, as far as I know, doesn't have any of the themes I just mentioned. So I thought I was coming on this show because I just know a lot about newspaper comics. Nope. No, Joe brought me on here because to make me
I wanted to air a bunch of old grievances and bring up a bunch of dirt that Marty probably would rather forget.
No, honestly,
apologize.
I like that story. I tell that story on, like, second dates, so it's...
Hey, I pissed off Robert Zemeckis one time.
And then I have to be like, yeah, Robert, Who Framed Roger Rabbit, Forrest Gump, yeah.
I call him Bobby. It's cool. We're cool. But anyway... Anyway.
Also, one time I sat behind Gary Oldman at a movie, like a short film festival. That's my other, like, Hollywood star encounter. Gary Oldman claps after movies.
Oh, he's one of those people?
Yeah.
Oh, man.
You can clap for a movie.
Especially if it's a short film and there's, like, a bunch of them in a row, though. So he clapped after every single one.
That's a little different. If the lights come up and you clap, it's all right because you're celebrating the shared experience of cinema. But
that's kind of like asking people to not clap during a graduation for every goddamn name.
Yeah.
By the time you hit the C's, you're going to be tired. You can't do it.
Oh, yeah, your hands are going to be chapped. It's going to be terrible, and we're going to be here all fucking night. And speaking of being here all fucking night, we have work to do. Yes, Marty is here because he is a huge fan of comic strips, and hopefully he can give us some insight into the Opus and Bill canon, because we're talking about A Wish for Wings That Work. This episode, by the way, was requested by a listener of ours. Booker, if you're listening, how you doing? What's going on? You too could have an episode requested for us if you email us at xmascreeps@gmail.com. Anyway, let's dive right in, shall we? Where to begin? Brad?
Had either of you seen this special before?
Many times for me.
Okay.
This was a first for me. I was not familiar with this.
It was on rotation in my house as a child pretty regularly, and I don't know why, but we also had like the VHS tape of it, and this is like the one VHS tape I took with me when I moved out of my house. And after a while, as you grow up, it becomes very silly to keep moving a VCR around from house to house, so you can watch one VHS tape one time a year. So
that's your dedicated Opus machine.
Exactly. So I got rid of it, I don't know, a while back, and so even though I watched it pretty regularly as a child and infrequently as a teenager, watching it this week was probably the first time I'd seen it in 6-7 years. So, but I still knew the lines, knew all the stuff. So it was in holiday rotation in my house. And since we're Jewish, that's a pretty big deal.
Oh yeah,
I'd say so.
Well, I'm glad somebody on this show has a history with this special, because I found it quite charming as a first timer. I actually very, very much enjoy it, and I know Burke Breathwood is not a fan of this short.
Does not care for it. That's fine. He actually, in all the interviews with it, comes off as kind of an asshole. One interviewer,
that's kind of what I gathered. Yeah,
said that his family really liked it, and his response was like, "Oh well, I'm glad you liked it. I guess was your family on speed? I hope that helps." Yeah.
Yeah, I saw that. That was the Washpo one.
Yeah.
All right, so Opus is a penguin, and he has one very specific request for Santa Claus for Christmas, and that is for a pair of penguin wings that work. Specifically penguin wings, he says. He writes a letter to Santa Claus asking for... Where is it here? He asks Santa Claus for, specifically, not fancy wings, just plain Jane, low rent, barely bent, homegrown, bare bone, off the shelf, 2-part Kmart, no frills flappers. It's a great little bit of writing. I think that might be the best part of this short, is the writing, because it's also sophisticated, but not so much that it ruins sort of the childlike glee of watching a cartoon.
Yeah, there's a lot of wordplay on here. It sounds like the writing really comes across and they reference it later, like a 1940s high-minded, highfalutin kind of northeastern accent. You can say this in kind of a almost a Katharine Hepburn kind of thing. Just plain Jane, low rent, barely bent, homegrown, bare bone, off the shelf, 2-part Kmart, no frills flappers. Ba-da-ba-ba-ba-ba.
I'm wondering if these lines came from the children's book that is the origin of this special.
Yeah, I wish we had gotten a copy of this book for the episode, because that would be good to know.
The library doesn't open for another 30 minutes. I made the mistake. I wish I hadn't realized it, but I realized about 6 hours too late last night while I was laying in bed. I really should have gotten the book. But that's all right.
Go to your local library early and often, kids.
Yes.
So who wants to pick this up for me? Because I'm losing the plot.
So, to be honest, there's not a whole lot of plot to this movie or to this special. It's 22 minutes long of a lot of vignettes and vamps. Opus, basically that's the premise. Opus wants penguin wings that work. He is writing the letter to Santa, and then we do a flashback as he's explaining to Santa in his letter like why he wants it. So we go to this flashback of Opus's valiant attempts to like escape the bonds of Earth. He chases after some ducks who are just total dicks to him for no reason, and make fun of him for his weak little wings and his stupid little bow tie. And it's just like a series of vignettes of him around the town that they live in, attempting to fly and being foiled most of the time by his would-be compatriot Bill the Cat, who is kind of his quote-unquote sidekick, or wants to be his sidekick. Several years ago, he rescued Bill from a university science lab that replaced his brains with tater tots, which is a very, very early 90s joke to make. A lot of the humor in this is incredibly, like, 1991.
Yes, it is.
Absolutely, yeah. And even into things like, I don't know, I don't feel like a cartoon in 2018 would ever reference, like, the Three Stooges at all, but, like, the three ducks that harass Opus are basically the Three Stooges. Like, you've even got the one with, like, the top of his scalp taken off. Like, he's basically Curly and doing the kind of shtick. And I don't feel like you would see that even today anymore. Like, kids back then probably didn't even know what the Three Stooges were, but they really don't know what they are now. I'm guessing. I'm assuming.
This is an Amblin John, right? So,
yeah.
Like, that was Spielberg and Amblin's whole thing. Like, the Animaniacs existed, and this is kind of like a prelude to that. Just making all
that's
these...
a good call, yeah.
Making all these, like, old school references that children do not understand. Hell, children's parents don't really understand, but Steven Spielberg thinks they're funny. And
so many Mickey Rooney jokes.
Yeah. I will say, like, I like this special. I was never a big fan of Bloom County. I'm a little too young to be like reading it in its heyday, but even when I did read it, it always struck me as like a less creative Calvin and Hobbes, combined with like a less like vindictive or brave Doonesbury. It had the same.
Yeah, that's the vibe I got off it too. Yeah,
same.
Yeah, it had the same, like, recurring, almost soap opera bit of, like, ongoing character stuff as Doonesbury, but it also, like, whereas Doonesbury will actually go after specific politicians, Burke Breathitt's whole shtick was more like, look at those clowns in Congress, what a bunch of clowns! You know, just, like, real generic, angry at the concept of government, but nothing specific. So it always came across kind of toothless to me. And so I like this special for the same reason that Burke Breathitt doesn't like it. It's not that much like the comic strip.
Yeah, and two, like, the voice of Opus it's Michael Bell. It's the actor who voiced Chucky's dad on Rugrats, among a million other credits. But the moment that voice comes out of Opus, like, it set me off a little bit because I wasn't expecting Opus to be that meek, I guess. And I guess I should have been, because that's really what this short is about. Is about a meek little character who wants something for Christmas. But I don't know, that voice doesn't quite play right for me. I don't know what it is.
Speaking of the voice cast, I'm a little confused because you have two credits for Santa Claus. You have Frank Welker and Andrew Hill Newman listed on IMDb, both as Santa. And there's only one Santa in this show, so I don't understand who is the real Santa. I'm going to give it to Frank Welker because that's a safe bet.
Yeah.
Maybe it was a stunt double. He was the ho-ho-hos or something. He couldn't pull him off. He had just come out of laryngitis or something like that. Needed somebody to fill in there.
Or maybe Frank Welker was busy on Transformers that day, and they couldn't get him back for, like, the one extra line they needed. So they just pulled some dude off the street. And can you do a good Megatron? Fuck that. We'll just get you to do Santa instead.
I mean, there are a couple of cameos in this special that very clearly sound like they are a little bit more rushed and, like, not quite as high audio quality as the rest of them.
Yeah, so let's get into that real quick. So after his initial flight attempt, Opus has to go to his Earthbound Birds support group, where he attends the support group with a chicken, a kiwi, and a baby.
That's one of the kids from Bloom County, I think.
Yeah, that's one of the kids.
Ronald Ann, I think her name is. But yeah, she's a recurring character. But it's just, I like the idea that a baby counts as an earthbound bird.
I got the impression she was running it.
Yeah.
Again, a very early 90s thing. Just the concept of therapy is a joke. Like, that's the punchline.
Yeah.
The punchline is that there is a
strange.
support group. And that's a very, like, early 90s sensibility thing. So, should we, reveal the... the Kiwi is voiced by Sudi Nim.
You know, I saw that in the credits, and it didn't compute, but when you said it out loud... I get it. It is in fact a stage name, a pseudonym, if you will, for one Robin Williams.
I thought I recognized it as Robin Williams, honestly.
As George the Kiwi, who is distraught because his beloved Dolores left him for an albatross.
Albatross. If anything has stuck with me over 20 years of this special, it's albatross.
I think it's one of the better goofs in this short.
Confirm or deny, Dolores left George for Wilbur from the Rescuers.
I assumed that was the case.
Good call.
My puny
She left him
Kiwi
for John
wings
Candy.
weren't good enough for Dolores. Robin Williams' like New Zealand accent sounds like a cowboy like extra, like a bit character in Gunsmoke.
It's like Yosemite Sam Down Under. Yeah, it really is. But you know he kept doing it. Like he did it in both the Happy Feet movies too. Like Robin Williams just loves that voice, and he loves doing it for birds for some reason.
I couldn't. You made me remember Happy Feet, and I will hold a grudge against you for that for the rest of my life.
Is Happy Feet bad, or did I just not get it? Like as a teen,
it's bad. It was not good.
Okay.
I don't know.
Okay, I'm gonna be the asshole that says Happy Feet is good, but Happy Feet 2 is bad.
I mean, I'm okay with the message. It just wasn't a good movie.
You know what's not bad? Speaking of Penguin movies, Surf's Up. Surf's Up is decent.
Surf's Up.
It's decent. A lot of the like dialogue is improvised, and that kind of shows. But it's the animation is fun. A lot of the lines are pretty funny. It's only got like the barest bones of a plot, but it's a fun watch. It's not like I'm gonna put it like a tier below Storks on the bird animated comedy scale.
I will say that I am very curious about Surf's Up 2, where half the cast is voiced by WWE superstars.
Yeah, that rules. I like how... I think they should just do weird shit with the Surf's Up franchise, because they released one movie, no one really cared about it, but they still own the rights to this franchise, so just go wild with it. Surf's Up in space.
Well, not just Surf's Up, but also the WWE, too. Like, they've done crossovers with Scooby-Doo, they've done Surf's Up, but like, what can't they do at this point? They should be doing everything. Like, they should be the modern-day Harlem Globetrotters. Like.
Oh, I like that. I like that idea a lot.
John Cena and Sheamus should do like a cameo on We Bare Bears or something weird like that. Like, just go for it.
I mean, We Bare Bears has had professional athletes before, like Damian Lillard and was on there. They had a whole basketball episode. So that's not a. I feel like maybe I'm making this up. I feel like Sheamus is in an episode of Supernatural, who also does like crossovers with Scooby-Doo, or maybe that's
they did, didn't they? Shit, Scooby-Doo is like
it's an Abbott and Costello bit. Like you link everything through Scooby-Doo. That's how you have a shared universe.
Like Scooby-Doo is
the
Doonaverse, is the modern
if you
Saint
will.
Elsewhere.
Doonaverse, trademark. Doonaverse.
So that is why Opus wants wings that work, is because Sheamus is in Surf's Up too. He's not. That's a lie.
There is one other cameo that is uncredited in this scene. As Opus gives up on his support group, he opens the door, and there is a bug in a dress below him that asks, "Excuse me, is this cockroach cross-dresses in crisis?" Voiced by none other than one Dustin Hoffman, also known for playing a crossdresser, probably most famously at that point in 1991 for Tootsie.
And apparently, because they were in production, Spielberg was in production on Hook at the time with Robin Williams and Dustin Hoffman. He could sort of corral them into a studio for a couple of minutes to get them to drop a couple of nuggets for this Christmas special.
Oh, that's definitely why it sounds like their voices sound audio quality different than everybody else's. Like they were very clearly just like on a smoke break.
They did it in a running car with a hand voice recorder.
Yeah, like Hoffman insisted on only doing one take. Like,
he was probably on set on Hook at the time, and they just brought a microphone to him. Like he's probably in Captain Hook makeup at the moment.
Yeah,
the Hook
probably.
hand and everything. He's got the mic in the Hook hand.
Man, what was it with the 90s and so many jokes about transvestites? Like, it was a big thing. I don't even know. Even in, like, children's media, I remember, like, people ragging on cross-dressing.
I think it's, like,
Just
prior
sign of the times.
Prior to that, your only exposition to it was, like, when Bugs Bunny would dress up as a girl bunny.
Yeah, me neither.
Did you find him attractive? And then, like, I don't know, it became... I think it really stems down to just, ew, that's weird and gross. I'm gonna credit the Drew Carey Show. Drew Carey Show had a cross-dressing character, and it was treated fairly respectfully. And so I think that maybe that was a turning point.
Yeah, that was his brother, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Big ups to Drew.
Yeah, big ups to Drew. I don't know. It is definitely a sign of the times. I mean, you guys...
The 90s really is a strange time for comedy in general, because so much of like what was cutting edge back then is kind of off limits now, is like passe, and we're not going to touch any of that anymore.
I mean, it lasted a while. One of my favorite Christmas quote unquote movies, and one of my favorite episodes of Christmas Creeps that you have done. You guys did Kiss Kiss Bang Bang, and a lot of the humor in that is very 2005. A lot of the humor in that feels weird even for 2005. A lot of like gay panic jokes. There's definitely like Harry doesn't understand the difference between cross-dresser and gay. Like a lot of that stuff in that. So that's 2005, and it feels very 2005.
Yeah, that was kind of like the tail end of that era of comedy.
Iron Man busts out some wild transphobia in 2008, just out of nowhere.
Yeah, it does, doesn't it?
So it doesn't go away, but like this cross-dresser joke in that Dustin Hoffman does in Opus, still far and away just a weird moment. This is just super 90s.
Especially weird because, and maybe this is just things that I pick up on, is like the cockroach is dressed as a woman, and he's got like the fake breasts that are clearly coconuts, but like they're cockroach-sized coconuts. Like, where did you find those?
Well, here's the thing, Joe. You just made me realize I don't know what coconut seeds look like, and I don't know how coconut trees grow.
A coconut is the seed.
Oh.
Yeah.
It's a big seed.
Then yes, I do. I do know what coconut seeds look like.
Wow. Anyway,
they're tiny coconuts. I don't know.
Tiny
it's
coconuts
cartoon.
From tiny palm trees in the middle of winter. Sure, why not?
So speaking of 90s stuff, Joe, where does Opus go to get his supplies when he decides to become an aeronautic vigilante?
Okay. He goes to Storm and Norman's War Toys and Balloons.
Oh.
Which is a
Oddly
great
specific.
quote-unquote nod to Storm and Norman Schwarzkopf.
That's kind of the Bloom County political humor. They'll just mention that Norman Schwarzkopf exists without saying anything about him.
Right. It's kind of like that Dennis Miller in the 90s hasn't yet lost his goddamn mind kind of humor.
Yeah.
Like we'll reference things, but we won't actually like poke fun in one direction or the other. It's just Storm and Norman's War Toys and Balloons, and he buys a pack of balloons so that he can get airborne. And one of the packs of balloons is called Dolly Parton's Balloons, because sure, why not?
It is a boob joke.
It is a boob joke.
It's a boob joke.
This kind of sets off a little. Sight gag where Opus and Bill are flying through the air on a set of like balloons, and they wreak havoc all over the place. And then when the thing crashes and burns, Opus says to Bill, "I need cats like I need butt implants." And I wasn't sure why he said that until later in the episode when his ass falls off.
Multiple times now. Just opens the door.
I don't get, is that a Bloom County thing, or was that just a random gag they put in this short? I don't get it.
I don't either. It's one of the many bits just to fill time in this.
Like pretty much everything.
Oh, please remember, everything we've talked to you about so far is in flashback. Like, all of this is just the prelude to explaining to you why he's writing to Santa. I don't think we need a whole lot of explanation to tell you why a penguin is writing to Santa. Like, that's one sentence. Penguin wants to fly, so he writes to Santa. That's your premise.
It's in the title of the short. It's a penguin wishes for wings that work. That's it.
I don't need to sit here and go, why? Why would a penguin wish for that? Like, the concept is pretty inherently self-explanatory.
But we cut back to him writing the letter in front of the fireplace.
Oh, we should mention the animation on that balloon sequence is really good. Like, that's one of the highlights of this. This is very beautifully animated. I like a lot of the line work and stuff in here.
Yes. I also really like the animation on Bill. For love or hate Bill, the way that he's animated, his jerky kind of spastic motions are a sort of a delight to behold, I think. I think it's one of the highlights of this short.
Yeah, I think that my first reaction when this thing ended was, I need to see more of this. Like, I kind of wished this had gone on for another 20 to 30 minutes. Just so we can get more animation of Bill doing whatever the hell it is Bill thinks he's doing. Crashing into trash cans and staring and throwing up hairballs everywhere. I don't know. That kind of weird animation worked for me. And the whole thing is very well animated. It looks beautiful.
Counterpoint, there wasn't enough story here for 22 minutes. I don't think we need a full hour of it.
That's the thing. Yeah, like as much as I would like to see more of this, I know that it would be stretching it like crazy, and they're already stretching it like crazy.
All right, so Opus has written his letter.
He puts the letter in the envelope to mail to Santa. Realizes it's already Christmas Eve, so he decides to fax it to Santa instead. It's another little 90s gag.
90s joke.
Oh. Wait a minute, Marty. Say that one more time.
90s joke. Ah, yes.
Nailed it.
Awesome. Faxes it to Santa Claus, goes to bed, and then we get the introduction of one Mr. Saint Nick.
Bump, 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 bump.
Yeah.
Santa Claus enters the short, making his grand entrance to the Magnificent Seven theme for some strange reason.
The reindeer are the Magnificent Seven.
Which one is missing?
Oh yeah,
No.
there's 8.
Wait.
Dasher, Dancer,
there's
Prancer,
technically
Vixen,
9 if
Comet,
you count
Cupid,
Rudolph.
Donner, yeah, okay, then
Okay,
that doesn't make any sense. Never mind.
Which two are missing?
He lost 2 of them over Kuwait.
That might be why he crashes.
90s joke.
Dun, 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 dun.
But yeah, Santa's sleigh comes uncoupled from the reindeer, and Santa goes flying down to the earth. But before that, I do want to say the close-up animation on Santa Claus is kind of terrifying in this.
Oh, the eyes. Those eyes.
My entire life, I have wondered why they made that decision. Like,
I think my best guess is they hired somebody from like heavy metal or something and said, "Here, we need you to do this one shot."
it's
It's gonna look weird as shit. Is that okay? Fuck it, just do it. We need a Santa Claus close-up.
Horrifying close-up of Santa's eye. You know, all the trademarks of Santa. You know, the belly like a bowl full of jelly, the red suit, the hat, and the giant glowing mystical blue eye.
The coked-out, bloodshot eye of Santa Claus.
Amblin Entertainment had a summer internship program, but the interns had only learned eyes so far, so that was their project over the summer, was to draw the 24 frames of Santa's eye.
And Steven Spielberg personally will pick the 2 best shots and use them in his upcoming animated film.
Yes.
Oh my God. So this presents sort of the conflict of the episode. You know, right here, we're in the middle of the thing. Like, we've got 10 minutes to go. This is the problem. Santa Claus has gone not missing. Santa Claus has lost his reindeer. Christmas Eve, Opus goes to bed and has a dream. He dreams that he is flying a DC-3 over China. And he dreams this as he's composited into the film Lost Horizon, where the pilot, everybody's freaking out that the pilot is flying the wrong way, and Opus is frantically trying to manipulate the controls to keep the airplane aloft. And then the plane starts crashing, and he turns to the camera and says, "Why are we going down? Why are we going down? We're going down because penguins can't fly." And he wakes up in a panic.
So yeah, it does. It uses a big chunk of the movie Lost Horizon, a Frank Capra like adventure movie, featuring a man who, despite the fact that I know it's impossible, I have always thought it was Elliot Gould. Boy, I say that, boy, we're going the wrong way. That man is Elliot Gould to me. According to IMDb, this is referenced again in Madagascar 2. The joke, the penguins can't fly joke, the penguins, flying the plane, etc.
Oh, yeah. That also has to be where the reference from the critic came from.
Yes.
Well, yeah. Penguins can't fly!
This segment was kind of the turning point of this short for me. I wasn't really feeling it up until this point, but I'm a huge sucker for composite jokes like this.
Yeah, I think we needed more of this.
Yeah.
Yeah, you could have definitely gotten away with doing a little bit more of this, especially Amblin, because that's kind of their bread and butter. So then Opus wakes up. He gets up out of bed, and he yawns, and everything in the room yawns with him. I like that little bit. The posters yawn with him and everything. I think the dresser yawns.
Yeah, this giant painting on the wall of a very angry looking man with a cigar in his mouth, and it yawns with him. It's creepy. It's actually kind of creepy.
Why does Opus even have that over his bed? Is my question. I was befuddled by it when he went to bed. I was even more confused when it yawned with him.
Let's go around the room real quick, and everybody, tell me what you have hanging over your bed.
A bunch of USB string lights.
A black and white photograph of a man fishing outside of a Scottish castle that my girlfriend bought. It's rather nice. I like it. Like to dream that he's catching some stuff up there.
And I have a framed Laserdisc of The Beast from 20,000 Fathoms.
That rules.
I love it.
So, Opus is not alone in having strange things hanging above his bed, is what we're saying.
Yes.
So the ducks drag Opus to the lake to show him this terrible thing that they've discovered. And they discover that Santa Claus and his sleigh are trapped in the middle of this icy lake. And they can't save him, but they know someone who can. And that person is Opus.
Opus, who believes, by the way, this is going to be a hazing ritual.
Oh yeah, he's so sure that they're gonna do something terrible to him on Christmas Eve.
I get the whole thing where Opus is able to swim underwater in icy cold water, but ducks are kind of known for being able to swim in water as well.
Ice water ain't a shtick. That's exactly how they put it.
Fair enough.
Well,
I've seen those ducks out there in the puddle, in the tiny part of the lake that's not frozen in the dead of winter. But anyways,
well, having seen the whole film now, the whole short, there's probably a good reason for this. They do this. They get Opus to do this on purpose because he's a penguin, and penguins, while they can't fly, they can sure as hell swim.
Much better than a duck. Yes.
Yeah. So Opus swims out to Santa's sleigh, ropes the sleigh, and drags it ashore. And Santa rewards Opus by granting his wish, quote unquote, or
the penguin wings that work were inside you all along, or outside you, really.
I mean, Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas. Santa gives you nothing.
Santa gives you the thing you had all the time.
Hat.
A hat. It's the Santa hat.
Okay,
no.
so by rules, does Opus become Santa Claus now, or is that only if he murders Santa? If he had
Opus
left
put on the
to murder
suit.
Santa.
Yeah, he has to murder Santa and put on the suit.
He put on the
Ranger
hat.
will know what to do.
He put on the hat. He was gifted the hat.
I feel like if there had been a second Bloom County Christmas special, Bill definitely would have accidentally killed Santa and crawled into the suit, right?
Oh, definitely,
Yes.
definitely.
And Opus would have to be his Charlie and tell him how great it is, even though Bill definitely does not want to be Santa Claus.
Damn, dude, this special sounds awesome. I'd watch that.
We need to get Tim Allen on the horn pronto. Wait, no, we don't.
It's probably pretty easy. Also, Tim Allen sucks.
Yes.
Yeah. Actually, yeah. If we're going to have to reboot the Santa Claus franchise, and you know that shit's coming, I would rather boot Tim Allen and get somebody else.
Paul Rudd.
Like pronto.
It's Paul Rudd.
Paul Rudd would be a pretty good candidate.
Yes.
Charlie
I like
Day?
that.
No.
But Charlie Day as an elf would be great.
Yes, he would.
You know what? Let's just go ahead and cross over Always Sunny with the Santa Claus verse. How about that?
Put
That would be
Charlie Day in the
fantastic.
Bernard role? Yeah, I'd watch that.
The gang
Oh,
murder
yeah.
Santa Claus.
I would be there opening day. Hell yes.
Only you. You and only
Me and only me. Sold one ticket. This movie made $10.94 at the box office. Anyway, so Christmas morning, Opus wakes up and it's Christmas morning. I think he thinks he's gotten nothing for Christmas. And then he opens the door and there's ducks as far as the eye can see. And they're all wearing Opus's little bow tie. And they take him for a flight. They pick him up and they whisk him off to parts unknown in the air. And maybe the most touching little moment in this entire short, Opus asks
The
why
ducks.
they're doing
The
this.
ducks.
Yeah,
Yes.
whose idea it was, basically.
Yeah. And they point down and like there's Bill standing there just kind of staring up, slack jawed like he does. And Opus throws the Santa hat down to him and they fly off. Merry Christmas, one and all.
Yeah, and we hadn't mentioned this, but Opus and Bill had a bit of a falling out prior to this during the balloon sequence.
fiasco.
Yeah, so
The balloon fiasco was the falling out point for Opus and Bill. But they're best buddies. They're reconciled at the end.
There's
Merry Christmas,
there's
everyone.
another character that we completely forgot to mention because it doesn't matter at all. Does not take place. But there's a pig who thinks he's a rhinoceros. I guess that's sort of a joke.
sort of.
It's the setup of a joke, and there's no punchline.
I have very little Bloom County / Outland experience. Is this a recurring character? I have to imagine it is.
I think so. I don't know.
Really?
I could be completely wrong, but I don't remember seeing that pig in any other circumstances.
The other recurring character I have to mention is the Elvis lookalike in the group of carolers.
Fat Elvis specifically.
Yes, absolutely. Because this is the 90s, and this is Amblin Entertainment.
Yeah, the Fat
Has
Elvis
to be
jokes
Fat Elvis.
were all the rage.
Oh, so that's a wish for wings that work, everybody. It's a Christmas special that maybe shouldn't exist, but I'm kind of glad it does. I enjoyed this one.
I'm of two minds of it. I came around on at the end, but having never seen this before and having not really I'm sure I read Bloom County or Outland when I was little. I'm sure I've read one of these joints because I was big into the Sunday Funnies when I was little. I almost agree with the creator that I feel like this type of humor doesn't necessarily translate too well to film, because there were very few moments that I found like laugh out loud funny. They were all like sensible chuckle Sunday funny kind of situations. I don't know.
Well,
it's nice.
Bradford, before you say that you agree with Burke Breathid on this, Joe, please read this paragraph that you copied and pasted into the notes at the bottom here.
Okay. So, yeah, he had been asked at one point, I believe by the Washington Post, about this special. And he gives his rationale for why he dislikes it so much. And here it is. Quote, "The director, who was fired," Skip Jones, by the way, managed to sprinkle a profane cornucopia of inappropriate flotsam around the show. Find a moldy DVD and check out the opening sequence. Watch the snowy hills during the pan. Some of them aren't hills, and that train track isn't really going into a train tunnel, unless it's Sigmund Freud's. It's pretty funny now. Imagine how funny it was when we finally spotted it during final mixing, 6 days before network broadcast. Keep in mind, this was a Spielberg production of a family Christmas show. I tried but failed to imagine Steven believing me when I tried to disclaim authorship of a woman's snow anus in the countryside, or the sign in the window of the store that says, "For sale cheap, Santa's balls." Too late to change. This was the pre-digital age. We courageously let it go without telling anyone. I'm glad I'm telling this in a trade magazine, and I can feel safe that it won't be going out on the internet thing.
I have some bad news for you, bud. You're on the internet now.
Okay, so...
I find it interesting that he refers to the internet as the internet thing.
Look, it was a simpler time. Can you imagine encountering anybody that refers to the internet as the internet thing right now in this day and age that isn't under the age of 95?
I'm very confused because he says a moldy DVD, so he's presuming that the DVDs have been around for a long time. So exactly when is the point that DVDs are old enough to be moldy, but we refer to the internet as that internet thing? Where is that overlap? It's a very narrow gap.
It's like a 2-day period, I think.
Also, I have no idea what the fuck he's talking about.
I read that quote before I watched this special. I caught maybe one hill that looked kind of like some genitalia, and that's about it.
I found the shot that he's talking about, and it's one of those things, like, once you see it, you can't unsee it, and, like, once he mentioned it, I went back and looked, like, oh, yeah, you can definitely tell. But it's definitely, like a prone ass, like, lying face down with a train tunnel coming out of it, and it's like... Why would a person do this? I understand why the director got fired now.
Boredom.
Yeah. On the other hand, every animator has drawn weird, dirty stuff and snuck it in there because they were bored. I like the part where he's worried about, like, pissing off Steven Spielberg with his, like, slight dirty jokes here. Steven Spielberg, producer of Animaniacs, notable for the fingerprints joke.
Yeah, exactly.
So good.
Like, Steven Spielberg would have just been like, that's funny, and just gone about his day. Like,
and two, like, this is 91. Spielberg has, like, a lot of bigger fish to fry than this. I'm sure he didn't even care.
He does not care.
He just put his name on it, essentially.
Exactly.
Gave it his blessing. Do you guys remember in the, like, early to mid 90s, like, this whole, like, minor moral panic about Disney movies having subliminal, like, stuff like that?
That's one of my favorite
like the
things.
clouds in the Lion King with the word sex. Oh no.
Okay,
like,
but the cover of The Little Mermaid, the VHS cover, straight up has a dick. Like, there's just a
it totally does.
It totally does. Unrecognized or mistakenly a dick. There's some shit in there, like in The Rescuers, I guess you can supposedly see a naked woman's torso for like 3 frames. You have to go frame by frame to see it, and it's just like it flashes real quickly in the window of a scene that they're like
flying by or whatnot.
They're flying by. Like, you would have the extent that you would have to go to, but this is, like you said, the moral panic. This is prior to Harry Potter or Pokemon, so. Your moral moms have to get something going. They already got the little explicit lyric stickers going on there, so now they're bored. And
what else can we ruin for our children? Yeah,
this is pre-Mortal Kombat and Night Trap as well. So
that's true. Exactly. That's true. Video games are still kind of an amusement. Like,
I thought I was going to get through an episode without mentioning video games. I was so close.
Oh, damn it, Brad! You were doing so well. We got notes about that from our last episode.
Somebody dragged me real hard, and I deserve it.
This is appropriate for kids, right? Like, you guys watched it or Marty, you watched this as a kid.
Yeah, absolutely. If anything, kids might be a little bored, but, like, it's a cute penguin and a silly barfing cat. That's entertaining enough. And
there's nothing really wrong with it.
The colors are bright. You might lose the kid during the, like, 3-minute Lost Horizon sequence.
Yeah, that's a little strange, but other than that, I think it's perfectly fine to show kids or families at Christmas time. So there's nothing wrong with that. So hey guys, let's score this feature, shall we?
Let's do it.
On our patented crankometer, our XY axis scatter plot, where we discuss how Christmassy these films are versus how good they actually are. The X axis is our Christmas quotient. So Bradford, how Christmassy is A Wish for Wings That Work?
It's reasonably Christmassy, especially in the back half. I'm gonna give it a solid 2 because it's mostly the framing device is his letter to Santa. That's pretty Christmassy. And this happens on Christmas. It's certainly more Christmassy than a lot of the media we watch. It's a Christmas special for kids.
I think it might lose points simply because it's really just about someone asking Santa for a gift for Christmas and doing a good deed, and then that's basically it. Like, there's not a whole lot of room for moralizing or Christmas feel-goodery. It's just kind of, we get in, we get out, no fuss, no muss.
It is bare bones.
It is bare bones, yeah. So I think I want to be generous and say 3, but that's as high as I want to go.
Yeah, this is out of 5.
Yeah, out of 5.
So I mean, in addition to like the framing device being a letter, Opus is like, I'll be flying on Christmas morning. You got the running gag of the carolers. They get caught on some Christmas lights during the balloon sequence. 3 is about right.
It's a flimsy 3.
It could have been Christmassier.
Yes.
Yeah, it definitely could have.
But
and it also could have
been a lot less.
Could they have done this story without Christmas? Like, could he just have wanted? Could he just have been like, a wish for wings that work? I want a new pair of wings for my birthday.
Yeah, a birthday wish for wings. Like,
yeah. You know what? I'm gonna say let's give it a 2, Christmassy. And then on our y-axis, how good would you guys say this was on a scale of -5 to 5? I think this is a pretty solid piece of work. Like, I like the animation. I think the voice acting is interesting, if not particularly good. And I think it's, for maybe a pilot. If this had been a pilot for like an Opus and Bill cartoon series, I think this would have been great. But as it is, it's kind of a one-off, and that's fine. It's decent. I would give it a 3.
I'm going to be a bit of a curmudgeon. It might be the mental state I was in when I was watching it. For the first half, I just felt like it was kind of there. I don't know. It wasn't doing a lot for me, so I'd give it a 2 or a 3. I'm gonna let Marty be the
I'll play the
decider.
I'll play the optimist role here. Like I mentioned before, a lot of it doesn't hold up upon rewatch. Now that I'm a little bit older, but for all the critiques that I have about it, it coasts by on charm for me. Also, indirectly, me liking it makes Burke Breathitt angry. So, and he just seems kind of like a tool. So I'm gonna give it a little bit more generous, a 3.5.
If me liking it means Burke Breathitt hates it, you know what? Let's call it a 5. All right, so we'll
3 then maybe
split all the differences and say 3. Yeah. So
yeah.
On our crankometer scale, Booker plotted out. This is a 2 positive, a +2, +3. So get your hurricane charts out and plot that out, and we will soldier on this upcoming holiday season, guys. We're in July now. We're rounding the curve into the holiday season, and I wanted to say this at the start of the show, but we kind of sped past it. I have a little bit of news about holiday creep in action. Could I share this with you real quick?
Oh, please.
Yes.
This past Friday the 13th, Big Lots announced their entire lineup of Halloween decorations.
Oh, we are getting here, huh? We're getting there.
We are in the creep is real, people. The creep is happening.
I mean, we are post 4th of July at this point, so other than back to school, which is kind of a thing in retail,
I feel like
this is all they
starts
have.
like on July 5th now.
Yeah, absolutely, it does.
Yeah,
it's crazy.
I worked retail for about 5 years. I'm trying to imagine when that stuff starts showing up. Like, okay, so it's early July.
Pretty early.
You said they announced the Halloween stuff. Halloween stuff usually showed up for us, and I worked at like major big box. Usually showed up about mid-August. Like we would have.
Sounds about right. Like September 1st usually would be kind of the beginning of the Halloween season.
Got to get it out on the store floor by then.
But that's mid-August. It actually shows up in our warehouse. Like, I'm sure the plans for the line came out months in advance. So I guess July sounds right.
I guess
weird,
so, yeah. And this is all stuff you can order online. You've got your Halloween lights, you've got your outdoor decor, you've got your like weird black and gold pumpkins for some reason.
It's this year's pumpkin in pumpkin color.
All of your shitty plastic Halloween needs brought to you by Big Lots. So that is Christmas Creeps for this week. If you enjoyed this show and you'd like to make a recommendation for a future episode, you can get at us on Twitter. We are at Christmas Creeps on Twitter, or find us on Facebook, facebook.com/Christmas Creeps. You can email us any recommendations or notes or comments or hate mail or whatever you want to send us at xmascreeps@gmail.com. Find us on, we're on iTunes, we're on Stitcher, we're on. I submitted us this week to the Google Play Podcasts site, which I did not know existed until this week.
And that was partially because of somebody who was kind enough to shout us out on YouTube, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, we got we found a YouTube video of a woman describing her favorite Christmas podcasts, and we were part of that, and we're happy to be in the mix in anybody's favorite holiday listening schedule.
Honored, even.
Honored, yes. You can find Marty at Breaking Mayberry and his podcast Breaking Mayberry. Marty, thank you for being here. I had a fun time tonight. I hope you did too.
Yeah. Oh, you know what else? We're working on a new podcast for Front Row Central.
Yes, we are.
Yeah, we're working on a new podcast for Front Row Central. It's called Front Row Central's Double Date, and the concept is that our critics go to the movies in pairs and talk about them and review them to each other. So Joe and I have not been on a date yet, but I hope to go on a date with you very soon, Joe, for our show.
Well, you know what? It's been a long time coming, and I think our date will go just fine.
So that's Front Row Central Double Date. We haven't launched it yet. I'm working on the first episode right now, but that should be launching in the coming weeks.
Yeah, we got 2 episodes in the can. Hopefully, more to come. All right, folks. Well, Marty, thank you so much for being here with us today.
Thanks for bringing me on. I loved it.
We loved having you.
And, hey, that's Christmas Creeps for this week. Good night, everybody.
Night.
Night.
Happy Christmas. Happy Christmas. Happy Christmas. You guys. Yeah.
A penguin? And he's been drinking. Wait a minute. Penguins can't fly. Penguins can't fly!